God bless everybody today. It's May 21st of 2021, 2:46 p.m. I think it's an important timestamp because we're moving into an extremely important weekend, I believe. You all know that you can find all of my articles on my eschatology page at endofdayssurvival.com. It has all my charts, graphs, timelines, flow charts, videos, and everything. Tonight we're going to talk about the crypto war and how it's going to affect the markets in the next few days and how it's going to affect you over time through hyperinflation and a number of different things. So let's get started in on this and we'll see where this goes. So if you do not know this man, you may before long. This is Elon Musk, and he is in his own right an extremely important figure. I've not always been a fan of his, but I do understand what he's trying to accomplish here. And I believe you need to understand what he's also trying to accomplish. This man is single-handedly, with a lot of help and supercomputers and a number of different things on his side, with his billions of dollars of infrastructure and banks of literal people working on this intense cryptocurrency exchange between fiat currencies and cryptocurrencies, and how they're going to change the world and basically make the Dogecoin and the other cryptocurrencies the exchanges of the world. They're going to remove the central banks and decentralize the banks so that you will have control over your money and it won't have to go through the institutions. And so you or I could have an exchange where we normally would need a bank, or we'd have to write a check and then it'd go through the bank and then it'd go through, there's a lot of energy being burned up by writing a check, giving it to somebody, having them teleport, or drive to a bank, cash the check, have the bank then deposit the money and go through the process so that you can use that cash. This is going to cut out all of the middleman. It's going to just decimate the institutions as we walk into this. But Elon Musk right now, this very weekend, is in the process of attacking the institutions. And you think, that's a bad thing, but in some ways it's not, because once you remove the institution from the money, then they can't set the parameters of inflation and things, and cryptocurrencies are the inflationary currency that you need to be in, so that once the fiat currencies fade away and you get hyperinflation, which is happening, and I've talked about this hyperinflation, how the bonds are moving up and the stocks are going to start to crumble, and then we're going to see a major event. What we're seeing right now is a major event. So what happened was Elon Musk literally attacked Bitcoin and shot them with an arrow, which is now bleeding out all over the place. It's hemorrhaging all over the place. So Bitcoin is considered the new gold, or some people at least consider it the new gold, because it's a currency that has a technology in it, but the technology is limited to the amount of coins that they're going to produce. And so after a point, they're going to stop mining these coins. It's a dirty technology, and Musk attacked that dirty technology through the green industry, okay? And so that's why Bitcoin is hemorrhaging right now. But hemorrhaging to the point it's taking the whole market system down, okay? So if you're invested in Doge or some of these other cryptocurrencies, like Ripple and different things. Now, some will hedge against us better than others, but like Doge follows and tracks Bitcoin almost in tandem. So if you're watching those charts out there, you'll notice that they're basically moving in tandem, and they're going to hit certain plateaus. Bitcoin is right now at right around 36,000. It's moving below 35,000 pretty soon, and we're going to see a tearing effect, because what's happening is it's moving through what we call resistance zones. So I use Kraken, and first of all, let's address one thing. This system of cryptocurrency is not the beast system, okay? As much as people want to tell you it's the beast system, it's not the beast system. It may turn into that system over time, and so you may have a moral or ethical aptitude that you don't want to deal with this system, but it will be the monetary system that we have to deal with as we move into the future, as the fiat currencies move away. And so you have to position yourself against inflation. And so what have we seen here lately? We've seen, a piece of plywood's $95 and housing, startup housing's, 25% more expensive. Or you go to the store and you buy a chicken for $10. It's not even cut up anymore. I mean, so hyperinflation is going to start to take over as the bond market moves up. And I keep talking about those bonds, okay? The bonds are extremely important to watch. I don't know what the bond is today. It's around 1.6, 1.65, but it's going to start to move to 1.75, and then it's going to move to 2, and then possibly 2 or higher. And if it gets there, we're going to start to see what we call a hyperinflation mode, where they cannot control prices of commodities. And we've seen, all your corn's way up, food. These are things that you have to deal with. And as it eats away your check, you have less and less money every week. And so this is why I've been trying to tell you to get your food and everything prepared, because as you start to see the third horseman come out, that black horseman that we're starting to see right now, you can't, a whole bucket full of money won't give you, enough food to feed your family during the day. That's what it says in there. Go read it. Okay, so this is why this is important. And the cryptocurrency is a hedge against inflation, okay? As they move away and your stock market is being decimated by this, and what have we seen? A major fall off of the stock market in the last week and a half, since really Saturday Night Live and Musk came out and attacked the major currency Bitcoin. And once Bitcoin started to bleed out and it went from like 64,000 down below 50, we saw it started to just basically hemorrhage out. And so if you look at this chart and you blow it up to where you can see it, you'll see this line here, okay? This line is a downtrend with no resistance behind it. Do you see that? I know it's hard to see on this graph, but you need to see this, okay? And this is why this is going to happen. Because Doge, Bitcoin, and a number of these currencies have a very small history of time. Fiat currencies have hundreds of years, and so you can track them over time. They build history. They build resistances from the time they start. They'll build resistances, okay? And as the market brings it up, you'll start to see these resistances build. And so once the market falls out, it hits these levels of resistances and then pops back up because it doesn't like it down there. It's like being stuck underwater. You don't like it. You want to get back above it. Look at what's happening, okay? In Bitcoin alone, we are down here, okay? We're down at the 36, 35 level with potential peaks at, 35, 34. This is 2:30 or 2:56 p.m. right now in real time today on Friday, May the 21st. Behind it, you'll notice there is no resistance. There is no market action between here, okay? And once you get to a point where you get 16,000, there's actually a spike on Doge, and I'll try to show you that in a minute, that tells me that when Doge hits 16, and Bitcoin tracks pretty much constantly with it, and let me show you that chart. Okay, so I'm on the day chart here. Let's go to Doge real quick. We'll take it to the day chart. And let me show you what I'm talking about here, because this is how scary this is, and this is what I mean. Now, I've got a lot of lines here. I'm sorry, I do a lot of grafting so I can follow these patterns. And like I've been telling you, I can follow patterns. So these patterns look like these patterns in a lot of ways, okay? It's the same pattern. There's some differences, but not that much. And what's going to happen is we're starting to move into this zone here, okay? You see that bottoming out right here, and then there's one, well, the 28, and you get down into this area down here, where we start to stop to see any kind of drop or resistance. And this is resistance. This is when it consolidates and then it moves up, and then it will consolidate, and then it moves up, and then it comes down, it will consolidate. Every time it consolidates, it builds a history. But there is no history. This is a void. It has nothing to stop it, and its trajectory is down. Okay? This thing's going to hit, right now it's at 36. If it hits 25,000 Bitcoin, it will take a massive dump on the other currencies, because Doge will at that point want to drop down to what's its last real major inflection point, which is here, 16,000. 16,09482, okay, or whatever that little dot is on the very bottom of there. This is the same thing that's going to happen when it hits down here around 25, 22. You know, we get into 20. 20 is going to be a problem, because that is what we call a fear factor zone. And once you hit 25, that is a problem in Bitcoin, because now you are devaluating the coin by less than 50%, and people are going to start pulling triggers and bailing out of this thing because they don't want to lose all their money, okay? This is going to cause a major cascade through the markets. And as this dumps down to 20 and Doge dumps down to 16, you're going to start to see a massive sell-off. This could actually, and I know it's crazy, and I've told people this, and they look at me like I'm crazy, but this could actually go to the point where you could get to your very first inflection point where Doge started to move up, or Bitcoin moves up. And what is that point? Well, if you go to the Doge chart, it's around 5 to 6 cents. Okay, that's when this started to pump. Because look, it was about 5 cents. That's when I started to buy in. And then it went to 7, and it went to 10, 12, and then it started to push. Beyond that, it started to move up, and it had good history until it hits. It had good history down here. Okay, it's got a lot of volume there. It had a long track record from 0 to 5 cents. But once you get past about 5, 6, 7 cents, 8 cents is where I keep taking my chart to. Because if you go to this line here, where your inflection point up is, and you take it out to about this point where it goes from 5, 7, 10, it's at about, where is that point? 8.081857.3. That is the floor, okay? I don't know if it can bounce past the floor. If it goes negative, then the whole system broke. And why is this important? Because if Bitcoin dumps below 20,000, it will take Doge past 16 to 12 cents or below. And that will then cause a problem for the markets on Monday. Because what happened is you saw a market close today at 3 o'clock Central, okay? The markets are closed right now. It just closed, okay? Or maybe 2:30. I can't remember exactly. Anyway, so the markets are closed. They don't know what's going to happen this weekend in the carnage of the Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies, okay? And there is no momentum for Bitcoin to go up. It has to go down. There is nothing to stop it. It's been going down since, well, what is that date? Around May 12th or 13th, it started to get hemorrhaged, and it's been moving down since. And now we are to May 20th, and so in the last week and a half, we've seen a major drop in the markets as well as here. And this is going to keep going down, because if you look at the overall picture, you'll notice that there's nothing here that indicates there's an uptrend on any level here. It's following this upward barrier straight down to an inflection point. Okay, so you're saying, well, what's the next inflection point? Well, if you take this bottom, move it out, then you're going to see around the 30,000, and then you have to move out to your next point, which is, like I said, then you get into the 30 or the 25,000 fear factor. Dude, that's a huge level that people have to psychologically deal with on whether they want to get out of this coin and whether it's going to matter, okay? And then 20,000 is when this pendulum starts to actually swing below horizontal. And so if you go from this point and you draw out, this is your floor, okay? If this thing starts to go negative and pendulum down, it will have its own momentum. It will bring it down. Now, I don't know how far it will go down. I'm not saying that it will go to 8 cents. I'm not saying that it will go to 12 or 16 cents. I can't tell you exactly where this is going to end up. I'm telling you, based on the charts, this is where it could end up. And if it does, what's going to happen is the markets will close on Friday, which they just did. They won't know this is going to happen. And so by the time they open up on Monday, the hemorrhaging will have occurred. Okay? So the markets will open up in China, Australia on Friday night or on Sunday night, and they'll see this carnage because it's within 24 to 48 hours. We're not even done here. It's still moving into the carnage in the next 12, 16 hours minimum here, probably. 48 hours. So you want to look at that window. And as these markets open up on Monday, here, we'll start to see, I believe, in a reverberation through the whole markets that will really cause what they call possibly a Bloody Monday. A Bloody Monday is when there's a major sell-off over a major event over the weekend that's caused the markets to basically crash. Now, I don't know what the crash will be. If Bitcoin goes below 20,000, there is no history to tell us where this might end up. Okay, so I don't know where this is going to end up. I know one thing. It will abate. This will come back fast because just as fast as it drops, it will start to bounce back up. Okay, because it's like a rubber band. It can only take so much stretch, and then after a point, it'll say, I'm not going to break. This is not going to break. That's one of the warnings. I do not believe the markets will go down completely, but it will damage the Dow and the S&P and the NASDAQ because once they see this carnage, I believe it will bring the markets down pretty hard. And they're already in a downtrend in the last week or so. We lost 600 and some points the other day. And so we're just not going to, this was all overbought. This has been this way for a while. The markets have been overinflated through tech. I've been talking about this overinflation through tech. And guess what? Elon Musk is in the picture again. I was talking about him back there and how Tesla was holding the markets up. And now what? So, as Musk attacked Bitcoin, he wants to bring the market down and recorrect it because it's oversold, it's overbought, it's way overvalued. They're being, pumped trillions into this market. And so we're starting to see a massive amount of inflation, and the Fed's trying to cover this up, and they can't because no one can look at this and not know there's no problem. So Powell and these central bankers can stonewall us all day long, but they're just lying to you at this point. Commodities like gold, silver are moving up tremendously right now. I saw gold was, 1850 and silver was moving up over 2830, 2850 or something like that the other day. And that could potentially move up 3 or 4 X or times as we start to see the inflation kick in. And what will happen is as the bonds start moving up to your 2 to 2.5%, we'll start to watch hyperinflation kick in, and all things will start to be more expensive. And that's where you got to put the oil in your lamp, people. That's why I've been warning you for months. This was coming. Now your paychecks aren't what they used to be, and you have to hedge against all that destruction. And the only way you're going to do that is through the cryptocurrencies. And I know it's a two-edged sword. I don't want to be in this market either. but I'm going to have to ride this market out until the market, the man, the Antichrist is on the ground and he converts the systems to a beast system. Then it's the beast system, okay? And that's not, if you look at my charts, and I've talked about this, that's not going to happen until 23, 24. 2023, 2024, destruction of Gog in Israel, resurrection of Antichrist, start of 2024, move into the signing of the covenant of death. I've showed you that on all my charts. I'm not going to do that. You got to go look at this stuff. But this will compel the markets down. But what will happen is he's changing two dynamics. He's taking what they call the whales out of the cryptocurrencies. The Bitcoin people that have all the money and have bought all the coinage all the way down here at the bottom, at the very low cents, at the 0.001% or wherever they bought this stuff. And he's going to get them to sell all this down in through here so that we can re-liquidity the community and you can then rebuy down here, okay? Because he knows that inflation's going to come up and kill you, okay? And so he's taking the power away from the central banks and he's giving it to you. And I know it's going to be a two-edged sword because it's going to be converted into another system. But just like most sciences, you create a science that's good for the population that helps cure something or, whatever, they always pervert it into an evil or a malicious art over time. And so you can't look at it that way, okay? And you have to protect yourself because you're going to get down this road in the next year or two and you're going to realize that you have no money to buy anything here. So as this crashes, they're going to have what you call a fire sale at the bottom here. This thing's going to come down, it's going to come down, it's going to come down, it's just going to keep coming down until it hits a point. It finally just says, I can't go any further, but I'm not going to break. I'm not going to break, and I will rebound. And with another thing he's doing is Bitcoin is over, its market cap is much higher than the other cryptocurrencies, and so what he's doing is he's retooling the currencies to where he brings Bitcoin's market cap down to about half, and so he can bring the other currencies up because people will pull money out of Bitcoin and they won't be able to buy into it after a while, and they'll put their money in the other currencies. And the other thing that will happen is the people in the stock market, which are getting smoked right now through your 401s and all your investments, will also pull their money because they have no return or yield in this market anymore as it's failing, and they're converting the systems. And they, the Fed can say what they want. They just came out and said they're bringing up like 5 different cryptocurrencies they're going to try on the population. So you not think they don't know this is a threat to them? Of course it is. It's going to change their whole way of thought, and it needs to happen. We need to bring the currencies away from these central banks so that they, what have they done? They've liquidated these people for trillions of dollars and made you all go out and get loans, and countries are in loans, and there's a big footprint on everybody right now with a big boot on top of you all on the neck. And they keep pushing you down, and they keep saying, you know what, the more we entrench you in debt, the more we have control over you. And Elon Musk realized, you know what, I can't allow that to happen, because if we're going to move into a new phase of commerce, then we cannot use these antiquated systems that just don't work anymore. And so we are going to see a major potential shift in the markets this weekend. This is extremely important. I don't know if I can stress, and maybe I'm wrong. No one knows in history of time what is coming. But if you look at the data, and it's all about the data. If you do not have proper data, the information that gives you all of the outer limit of the worst possible scenario to the best possible scenario, then you cannot consolidate the information down to make a proper decision and move forward without being in white noise and confusion. And that's what this is. You look at these charts, they move a certain way. Now, in normal markets, you would never see these markets move this volatile. they would, they'd go up and then they'd trench and they'd move up and down in a trench, and then they'd move up maybe or down and then they'd trench and then they'd come back up and they'd build this history. And what I mean by this here, like, let me show you. So let's say this market, it came in and it trenched and then it came up and then it trenched. And then it came up and then it said, you know what, I didn't like that because it's hitting these barriers it's never seen before. It doesn't really know whether it wants to go up here. So it'll come down, it'll trench, and then it hits a higher high. And then it hits a low. And then it comes back up and then it hits a higher high. There's a point of deflection though. In Doge's instance, it was 74 cents. And then it came down. Okay, dramatically. We're at 33.5 cents now, and this is going to crumble quickly, but it will, as the markets won't come back as easily because they're going to pull money into bonds and crypto and fall out of the market due to the markets crashing and they're not seeing any value in the market anymore. They will bail into to cryptocurrencies and metals and other commodities that they can hedge against this destruction that's happening on the other side, on the fiat currency side. Okay, and so what will happen is over time, as the paper money fails, we will start to see an exchange rate between one cryptocurrency to one fiat currency, and they will then just convert it to where you can take your phone and just swipe your phone and buy a car or buy your groceries or whatever. It won't be even a card. It'll be on your phone. Everybody will be connected through a community. The miners will mine and they'll produce the coins that will then dictate the market based on the amount of volume of coins that are being placed out there. Each currency has its own caps, soft caps, or whatever, maybe a full cap to where they don't make anything else, like Bitcoin will be, and that's why it's so overvalued. Because after a limit of certain time, like 2040, they won't mine any more of this. And so people believe that after a point in time, you won't be able to get it. And so it's like gold. And then Doge will be like your dollars, okay? And Doge is the currency of the future. You have all the other currencies that are more regional or utilities, where this is being pumped up by guys like Elon Musk and Mark Cuban and Snoop Dogg and all these people. And I get it; they're not all good players. I don't want to go in that world. I don't even want to attempt to try to figure that out. But they do know the trend. They do have the money, and they are going to change the market and move these markets. So we need to understand what's going on here. I'm telling you right now, I believe that we are going to see a major market correction this weekend. If Bitcoin drops below 25,000, let me go to that chart. We're at 35,000. It's dropping like a rock. We saw this inflection, and then he attacked Bitcoin. Okay, and then it just doesn't have any legs to. It doesn't have any legs back here. If this was all filled in, then there'd be resistance for it to stop. But once it hits these floors of what little resistance it's had back here in the history of this coin, which is around 28,000, you're going to hit the fear factor of 25. You're going to hit the bottom where it really decides. And as it hits these levels, it's going to create what they call triggers. People are going to either sell or buy on those numbers. Probably more sell off than buying because they know the market's still collapsing. And they're going to be selling because they're going to be fearing losing all their money. Okay? And so once you hit these 25,000 level, that is a major psychological barrier. And look, there's not much history. It had a lot of history down here, but once it hit about 18,000 to, 23, 20, I don't know where the line goes to, about 28. Between that, 23, 28, there is nothing there to hold it in place. So once it hits 28,000, We got a new gain going on, and I'm guessing it'll hit 25 and 20, and then it might bounce back up once it bottoms out of 20. But what that will do if you go to Doge is it will come down, it will hit your 20, it'll hit your 25, which is coming up. We're at 33, 33.45 right now, 0.3345. That'll hit around 30, you start hitting the 30, 30-cent mark. That's a major factor point. You hit that 20-cent mark. Well, 25-cent mark's a huge fear factor there. 20 cents, a major barrier. And after you hit 16, you have nothing left. Where it will end up and stop hemorrhaging, I don't know. Right now, all downtrends, if you look at the downtrend, this is the downtrend, okay, right here. This is what we're following, are these trenches. These trenches will determine whether this market starts to come back up and come back up. But what will happen is, as we start to follow these trenches, and you got to watch like the standard moving averages and the EMAs and different things so that you can see the 50-day, the 200-day averages, and if they're crossing over these levels negatively and they're creating what they call death crosses, and I'm not going to get into this technical stuff, that's a bad sign that this is going down and there is no trend up. I have not seen, you see these little plateaus, but there is no trend from here. There was never a trend up. Once it hit this, it just collapsed on itself, and it just keeps collapsing on itself, and I don't see this to, I just don't see anything to stop it yet. Once these start to, and look at this, they're all starting to converge on themselves. All these markers are starting to converge, and once they do converge, they're going to hit that, look at that 33,000 mark that I was talking about. Then when it'll hit the 30 and it falls through the 30, then we hit that 25. That's a real game changer, I believe. I don't know where it will fall out. Anyway, I just wanted to go over some of this. I think it's extremely important. I do not know how far this will take the market down. And so what will happen is, as we move through the weekend and we start to see this carnage, and if you go down in here and you take these refraction points to the distal ends of like, this could go to 12 or 16 cents. I'm on Doge. No, I'm on Bitcoin. Hold on. No, I'm on Doge. That's right. You'll notice that the trenches take you to about 12 cents before you fall off the ledge, okay? And you hit these trenches down here where there's no history. If you bring this totally out from the point of inflection to here, which is about 11, 12 cents, you hit 8. I said 8 cents at one time. I got called on that one, but I'm still following the suit that it could go there. You'll notice that the inflection point could go there because this will hit the bottom and then bounce finally, okay? It can't go. Now, will this correct itself and move up before that and bounce off? As it moves through the trenches, this is going to bounce off one of these barriers, okay? Right now, it's stuck in this barrier pretty much here, okay? And it could go down into these barriers, which is even worse, okay? You don't want to go past about here, or we're in trouble. If it starts to move up through these zones, there's zones, they look like lines, but there's zones of, percentages of points, between certain fraction of cents or dollars, depending on what chart you're on and how much it's worth. Once it moves through these zones, you'll start to see that, it'll bounce in trenches, like 50, You know, right now it's bouncing in a trench between like 33 and 35, okay? And then it may bounce in between a trench of 33 and 31, and then 31 and 29. Okay, well, 29, you're below 30, okay? And now we start moving into those really bad situations where this could really dump. It won't hit zero. I have no thought that this won't rebound. And when it does, when it finally hits this zero or wherever it bottoms out down in here, probably 16 to 12 cents maybe, you can buy in all these currencies extremely low. It's called a fire sale because you're buying it for pennies on the dollars. And so if you have money in your cryptocurrency accounts, and you're not going to probably be able to get currencies into those accounts unless they're directly hooked to your bank accounts. If you have to wire it like crack, and you can't do that, at least on the United States side, you'll have to wire it in on Monday and try to hit the bottom of the thing. But if you're not in this, there's you have to get through the process, and that can take some time, and you may pick it up. Because what will happen, I believe, this thing will pop back down wherever the trench is, and once it finally starts to rebuild, it's going to come up quickly because that rubber band is going to stretch down and it's going to hit a wall, probably this wall. I don't know, man. I keep looking between here and here. I'm watching this trench, this one and this one, pretty strongly on your upper and lower resistances. It could trench here, it could trench here, it could trench here, or it could really bottom out into this trench, and that is a real problem if that happens, because then it will go below this resistance line, and there's nothing here to hold it up then. So I'm hoping it doesn't go there. But on Monday, you'll probably get some pretty cheap stuff, and now I believe this will correct because Coinbase is coming online within about 6 weeks. Which is amazing that Elon Musk's birthday is on June 28th, and I believe he wants a really awesome birthday. And so this will, I believe, correct itself. And by the time we get to June 28th, we won't even recognize the cryptocurrency market as in deficit and won't be a problem. But that doesn't mean that the overall markets won't be in a real problem. So just keep an eye on this. I think it's an extremely important thing to watch this weekend. We are moving into a new time frame. I keep talking about that chart. Let me go to that. So if you go to the front of my page and you click just down below the main logo, you'll find the timing of Daniel 8 and 12 with Psalm 90:10 chart. Which includes Ezekiel, Jeremiah, Daniel, and a bunch of prophets, and how this all lines up with actual time date stamps. And I've explained how all these dates actually occur in other videos, and how I came up with this, and it's in the Bible. I show you exactly where I find this stuff. It's not my guesstimations. It's based off of a paradigm that I found. We start to move into what I call the June 30th effect, which I believe, since Erdogan was the White Horseman, was unleashed on October 9th during Yom Kippur, when he invaded Syria and started that 30-mile buffer zone right before the COVID came out and started to hinder the whole world. And then we saw the shofar blown on the temple, around Israel in September of 20. That this was going to start this build up into this June 30th event, which is amazing because Elon Musk, his birthday's June 28th, right before this. And so is he potentially a trigger that's going to cause the B system to change into cryptocurrency from fiat, which then, now look, the Antichrist doesn't come out till in here somewhere, okay? So this is not the beast system here, okay? It's just destruction and the sorrows and birth pains. But once the Antichrist is resurrected on the sixth trumpet, comes out and then stops the continual burnt offerings before the signing of that covenant of death in, I believe, April of 24, this is not the beast system, and you're going to have to learn how to survive for 3 more years before the beast system even gets here. And that's going to be hard when hyperinflation and prices of food, commodities, building materials, gas, and everything is skyrocketing, and your checks aren't getting any bigger. You're going to have what they call, they're trying to hire people for more money, and you get wage inflation, but wage inflation still is not going to affect the hyperinflation that's happening in your lives by going out and buying food and stuff that's twice as much as what it was if you'd have bought it a few months ago. Okay, so it's extremely important. I think the timing of this currency is extremely important and how it's going to crash down, and we're going to walk into June, and that is the start of what I call the 2300 days. From the cleansing of the sanctuary, the Feast of Tabernacles, I talked about this, the very last day, the bowls are dropping, the cleansing of the earth happens, we're in heaven, rapture occurs back here, we're in heaven, we're now with God, we're in His temple, the book of life is now being opened just shortly after this, and we start into those 2300 days, which if you work back from this outer limit, October 17th of 2027 to June 30th, which is 2300 days, we start into what I call a new time zone of we cannot go backwards at this point. Once we cross this zone, just as your crypto zones are here, this is not going to not go through these zones. It's required to a certain degree. These charts, these things, they have their own life. They have to follow certain paths. Now, Musk has been manipulating the chart, so if you go to Doge, you'll realize that certain times he tweets and then you'll get a 3 or 4 cent spike. But then it will come back and it will trench down, and then he'll tweet again. You'll see a zone spike, but then he attacks something and you'll see a major drop. So the charts are being manipulated. The reason I think they're being manipulated is I've never seen 2 charts run exactly parallel together, and Doge and Bitcoin are basically running parallel together. You can't hardly distinguish. Look at that. You cannot hardly distinguish the 2 charts from each other. This is how incredibly insane this is. They look almost identical. And so because of that, I believe the whole market's being manipulated. Musk has the juice to do this. He has spaceships, supercomputers, banks of scientists, analysts, statistical people, everything that you could imagine to work out all the equations of what happens when he tweets, why he tweets, when he should tweet. And it's amazing when you hit a certain barrier and you think it's going to go under, he tweets and it brings it up 3 or 4 cents, and then it'll sit there and trench for a while. And then it'll start to drop through that barrier, and then he tweets and it brings it up for a while. But what happened is he started to give us subliminal messages. I don't know how to explain it. He actually telling us what's going on in the crypto community. So if you follow Musk tweets, the propaganda that's coming out on media, him with the Doge dog, him with this, him rocketing to the moon, him, he did a thing where it showed these candles, 1 higher candle, 3 smaller candles, and that means that there's going to be a bearish sign, with the large green candle being the first candle. And let's say if we saw this here, I don't know if I can find one or not, probably not, but you'll see the green candle, and then the next 3 candles would be red smaller candles. On the charts, that's what they call the 3 white soldiers. That's a bearish sign. Actually, if I pull this chart up, I believe that's them right there. Anyway, that means we're going to have a major downtrend. And so he already knew that was coming before it even happened, or at least right around the time it happened. And so you have to wonder what he knows. But anyway, I'm going to stop here. God bless everybody. Keep an eye on the markets. Keep an eye on your 401s. Get your oil in your lamp. Things are changing quickly. June 30th is coming. The next month, 6 weeks are going to really start to amplify and accelerate all these different things. Again, you got to watch Turkey. Turkey's going to be the catalyst that destroys Iran as a nation, I believe, by the end of the year. You got to watch the Kurds because they have to join or align with Iran somehow, and then Turkey will then crush them in the next, 9 months to a year. I believe it'll happen before the end of this year, in the next 6 to 8 months. I guess 6 months. Wow, time's really moving. And then they'll start moving down towards Israel and Egypt. So keep an eye on all these things. I've noticed it's ramping up. The Kurds are being plied under pressure. They just killed one of their major generals, and so I believe that'll, the Kurds generals, just so I clarify that. And so that will, they call him a terrorist. I don't know if that's necessarily the case. I don't know the geopolitical people and how they're affecting each other over there. But anyway, that should send a sign through the Kurds that they're going to have to start really ramping up their defenses and things like that. So I think that'll just force Iraq to be more of a harbor of these refugees and people as they're being drove out of Turkey, Syria, and Iraq itself, and being pulled down towards Iran. And then we have that Daniel 8:1-10 prophecy that once the Kurds or the Medes get to Iran, Persia, and these two groups align, and they get down around the Ulai River in the province of Elam, in the city of Shush, where Daniel is actually buried, that this is going to be a real problem, and it's going to amplify the destruction of Daniel 8 and how that prophecy will be fulfilled. So anyway, God bless everybody. Take care of yourselves. Things are going to get interesting this weekend. I hope it's not as bad as I think it might be. And I'm always hope for the best and prepare for the worst. And we need to just prepare ourselves as we move into this next 6 or 8 months. Things are going to get pretty interesting, I think, as we move forward. So God bless everybody and have a great night.